Hi, this is John Harchar, and welcome to the original Valleys of Numenor headquarters here. As you can see, all the books that I've used in the past, and including some of the ones we've gone over. Told you I didn't really have anything in mind this month, so let's do a Rings of Power update since there was some big-ish news at the beginning of the year. In January, there was a big leak about what was going to be in season 2. Some of it rang true, some of it just came out of left field, and people were like very confused about it. Like, this can't be true. So I figured, in the words of the Maha, well, you've heard other people talk about it, but you haven't heard what I have to say about it. So I'm just going to go through the article that the OneRing.net has up there. They've been around since before the Peter Jackson movies, like when they first announced. I think it's when they started. So they've been here all along, so they're as reputable as anybody else. And we'll just go through and see which ones ring true and which ones don't. So they start out their article talking about what looks like is going to happen with Sauron / Halbrand. And it looks like it's going to be a very Sauron-centric second season. Try saying that 5 times fast. They're actually going to start with Sauron as being one of the angels, the way that Tolkien originally created him, and kind of showing him going through his fall and then the battles he had. And the thing that brought up the most red flags with people like that, is they were going to have that guy Adar, or whatever, the evil elf. They were going to have him kill Sauron's son at some point, which put them against one another. And the people were like, Sauron has a son? Sauron had children? Where did that come from? That's kind of like, wait, the Emperor had a son to get a grandchild? How did that happen? So that's like, I know they're trying to like come up with things to like, up the emotional ante. But God, I hope that's not true. I hope that doesn't happen. Because it's so out of left field. It just has so nothing to do with Tolkien. It's not going to go over well. You could tell originally just from the reaction on just the rumors about it. And it's like, people rightly saying, it's like, look, you can, we know you're making up stuff to like tie things together, but this is just, it's just bringing in an outside element to the point of almost absurdity that it's that blatant. But so that does tie in though with the next piece of news, because the way that they mentioned it is that they said, well, this year Sauron is going to be played by 3 actors. Yeah, I think Charlie Vickers, I think, is the one who plays Halbrand, the one that we know already. Then they were going to get another actor to play his earlier angelic version. I think Mayron is the name. I have to go dig it out. And then they were going to have a third actor, play his Anatar incarnation. And the person that they originally tied to that role, who Tolkien described as a fair-looking individual, kind of like like the Metrons in Star Trek, the Arena episode, like the guy that showed up at the end there, kind of like that. The guy that they mentioned, it was like black hair and dark skin. And it's like, wait. Anatar is blatantly described, clearly described. This guy is like the total opposite. So in the 3 months that it's been since the rumors have come out. They've kind of beaten that one down a little bit. Said, no, that's not gonna happen. That one's not correct. Which is, it's not like they can go back and reshoot it or anything, because Rings of Power was one of the shows that was able to work through the strike. So they were one of the lucky ones. So they were all set. They weren't interrupted and pushed back too much. So they're done, which we'll deal with towards the end. It's like they're done. So, but the fact that they use the name Anatar is like, that set off like alerts as well, because Anatar is a name that does not come from, there we go, I'm turning right there. Doesn't come from Return of the King. It's not in the appendix. It's not in the appendices. It's here. There we go. In the Silmarillion. Where specifically they were told, well, the Silmarillion is not part of the Lord of the Rings package. But if they're using the name Anatar, they must have the rights to use the name Anatar. Well, the speculation is now that Amazon did pick up the rights to the Silmarillion, which would make sense because the whole first episode is supposedly the music of the Anor, which is the Annandale from the first part of the Silmarillion. So that would make sense if you're going to do that, because that doesn't come from the Lord of the Rings appendix either. You would have to have the rights to the Silmarillion. So they may have them, but the other question is, why didn't anybody make, maybe not a big deal, but just kind of like, hey, as we move forward, we've made a deal with, I think Simon is the one in charge. It was either Adam or Simon Tolkien. I think Simon. Both of them are far more amenable to modern media than Christopher, God rest his soul, was. That was why anything post Lord of the Rings was like off limits. But now I think those guys are looking to a little bit of the future. Like, well, we have to. I have to start integrating some of this stuff, and there's only so much you can get out of here. There's only so much. Remember, there's the 2.5 pages of the appendix for the Numenor material. So, whereas they have at least 30 pages in here for Akhlabeth. And that's not even bringing up the stuff that's in here, the older stuff in here. And yeah, I finally picked this up. I've only picked this one up. The Notion Papers Clubs. Notion Club Papers, excuse me. Notion Club Papers, which was kind of like his reimagining of the Lost World, the whole idea of time travel. And then from there, he wrote another version. I think Christopher puts it down as the third version of the Drowning of Numenor. So originally all that was off limits, but now at least if they made a deal with the Silmarillion, that would kind of open them up and allow them to play around with certain things to kind of make it more cohesive. I just actually came up with this analogy. For those of you who know computer coding, it would be like when you look in Lord of the Rings and you see a reference to Beren and Luthien. That's like a function. And that would call back to a different page where you've created the Beren and Luthien function, and that's their whole story, which you can now relate to it because it's being called here. But they weren't allowed to use it. For those who've never read the Silmarillion, it's not a part of it, which is kind of why Tolkien wanted the Silmarillion to be part of the whole Lord of the Rings package. And of course, it didn't happen until after he died. So that's what it's kind of like. It's like calling back to a function that's not defined yet. So the Silmarillion defines the Beren Luthien function, the Turin function, the Gondolin function, like all those stories. And now also the Numenor function, because you only have a little piece of it, short page. you don't have the full code for Numenor. You just had that little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if that actually has come true, whether or not it's been, the rights have been acquired, because as we know, Warner Brothers has their whole thing, and they're still stuck in just Lord of the Rings, which is why they minded to do the Rohirrim movie that's coming out this Christmas, which I may try to do something on. We'll see if I can get my son to actually go to the movies. One of the reasons I wanted to do something with Dune, but I haven't seen part 2 yet. Not only have I not got my books out of the attic, I still haven't seen part 2, because it's like, he loved part 1. So I was like, well, great, let's go to the movies and see part 2. He's like, I don't want to spend 3 hours in the movie theater. I'm like, we saw Spider-Man and it was 3 hours. But I was like, yeah. So I was like, okay, we'll wait for it to come on Max. Okay. So that's the second part of there, which we'll see if this actually happens, which would be a good thing, provided they stick to the material and not go too far astray. Probably one of the reasons they went so far outside and created so many new things is because they didn't have a lot of toys to play with from the Silmarillion. But maybe now they do, so maybe now it'll stick a little closer, even though they're going to... The timeline is what it is, so don't think that it's going to be revised too much that way. So the next thing that they're bringing up, which I think sounds reasonable considering the way they set it up, is we will be seeing Celeborn this year, and the rumors are it's going to be a disguised Sauron version to come back and try to, again, play with Galadriel's head and mess around with her. And then supposedly at the end of the season, the real one will show up. So to me, this sounds like legit. They actually set this up in season 1 when Celeborn's gone missing. He's going to show up out of nowhere, and then the real one will show up. That sounds like a reasonable, dramatic thing that will happen. Because we know Celeborn's not dead. He's in Lord of the Rings. We've seen him. So, same thing we know. Isildur's not dead. We know that. He's got some more things he has to do. So, I definitely think this is going to be a part of this. So just count on this happening. I would definitely count on this one showing up. And then they go into what's going to happen to Celebrimbor and the other rings. Because what the rumors were is that at the end of season 2, you will have the first big battle between the elves and Sauron. And supposedly it's going to be like a 2-parter. They're going to be... That's how long the battle's going to be. So it's a vital part of the story. And Celebrimbor is not going to make it to season 3. So, supposedly he will be doing a Ned Stark imitation by the end of the season. So, we'll see if that happens. But then that also calls into question when exactly the other ring is going to be made. Because at the end of season 2, they said that the one ring is going to be created. Well, we know we got the 3 rings already done at the end of season 1. We got the 1 ring that may be at the end of season 2. What about the ones for the dwarves and the men? Are they going to be made before he dies? Or are they going to come after? I would think they're going to have to be done before and then maybe handed out, which would be Anatar, bringer of gifts, lord of gifts, whatever it was. And then all of a sudden it'll be like, oops, oh God. But the problem is Anatar has to be around at the end when the flood comes, so I wonder how they're going to handle that with him. Because the rings got made at some point. We know that. It's just going to be a question of when are they going to be done if you're going to take out the guy that made the rings in the first place. So we'll have to see exactly how that plays out. It definitely is a part of Tolkien lore that he doesn't make it after the battle. So, we'll have to see exactly how that plays out. Now, the weirdest one of the rumors is that the series will finally use Tom Bombadil. People were like, hey, why didn't Peter Jackson use him at all? He didn't use him in Lord of the Rings. He didn't go back and use him in The Hobbit, even though, they did Radagast. They put him there when he wasn't there in the first place. Peter Jackson always says, well, it's not that it didn't happen. It's just we didn't show it. So it may have happened. We just didn't show it. So they're going to work Tom Bombadil and his wife, her girlfriend Goldberry, in. But it's how they're working them in that is another thing kind of out of left field. Supposedly this has been a fan theory that's been around for a while. I think it's a little odd myself, but they're saying that Tom Bombadil and Goldberry are actually Morgoth and Ungoliant being punished for what they did in the first age. To me, this doesn't make any sense because Tom Bombadil is basically a positive character. There's nothing positive about Melkor / Morgoth. Look at all the trouble he caused. The whole war. What he did to Hurin's children. There's no redeeming qualities about Morgoth or Melkor. So why he would be changed and made into another creature to be punished and being a generally positive character. The fact that, Tolkien wrote a whole series of poems about him as well. This one just doesn't make sense. And if they go down this path, it's not going to end well. This is another one. It's like, okay, whoever came up with this, if it happens, not a good idea. Just you defeated the Dark Lords. Just punish them, but not this way. Because this isn't punishment. This is like, okay, well, we'll kind of overlook all that first age stuff. You just go help the hobbits and we'll be good there. Sorry, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm hoping this one is just somebody. Because there was also a thing that Amazon was also feeding false rumors out. So I'm hoping that this is one of those. Because it just, like I said, it doesn't make sense. Does not make any sense whatsoever. So let me scroll down. Now, the one of the last parts. So basically, the series we'll be dealing with. So we've dealt with the Sauron aspect, and the elves a little bit. Numenor, what you're going to have is Pharazôn kind of making his move, I would bet, to become king at this point. Well, and then I have no idea what's going to happen in the Southlands. I have no idea. Supposedly they're going to head to the port city, and I can't remember the name. I'll have to look it up. But it's like one of the important ports in the age of when Gondor and Andor were around. So maybe they'll be focusing on that. But then the fourth part is, Nori the Harfoot and the stranger, Gandalf, and their trip to Rune and to find out, what he's supposed to be doing, find out magic there. And supposedly this will be his first meeting with Shadowfax, the horse. I think that's okay. I think that'll work. It would kind of, tie things in a little bit. There's nothing to go against it because basically the whole idea of having one of the Istari in the Second Age goes against everything that was written in the first place. So if you're going to do that, you may as well tie this in. I think that's workable. That's definitely workable. So that will be a fun section. So the One Ring ends their rundown with a very simple thing. Where's the marketing? And I have to chime in and agree. Once we passed the Super Bowl and there was like nothing there, like, all right. They insist it's going to be out in 2024. House of the Dragon has put out, I don't know how many trailers already. So they're, I think, going to be starting in June, I think. So maybe Amazon is just waiting for House of the Dragon to be kind of out of the way. And then they'll play up and they like do Rings of Power in the fall. Because the head-to-head competition, I don't care what the numbers say. The numbers may be whatever they are. They may have been great or whatever, workable. But just as far as the look at this is what House of the Dragon was and this is what the Rings of Power was, the comparison didn't do Rings of Power any favors. People just saw like, okay, this is what we love Game of Thrones about. And it's like the Game of Thrones that we enjoyed. Maybe the first 5 seasons. Maybe a little bit of the 6. Probably the first 5 seasons. This is what we enjoyed about Game of Thrones in the first 5 seasons. They've recaptured that with House of the Dragon. As Rings of Power was something, as I mentioned in one of my earlier podcasts, it's just something totally different. The comparisons don't do it any favors because it's not the same type of acting. It's not the same type of storytelling. So it's better to remove it from any direct comparison. So let House of the Dragon go. Let it play out over the summer. And then in the fall, go ahead and do the Rings of Power. But the fact that they haven't even mentioned, they just mentioned the window. Oh yeah, we're going to put it out in 2024. It's like, and I think they also mentioned it's going to be 8 episodes again. So I don't know if Patrick and JD are going to be able to get to their 50 hours at this point if they keep making these 8 seasons instead of a 10 episode season. 8 episode season instead of 10. So unless they're going to do longer ones later on, like 12, 13 episodes to catch up. But, they're the ones that put the 50 hours out there, not us. So basically, if you want to get it in, the latest they can really start, I would say, would be the end of October. Because once you get into the first week of November, by the time you get to Christmas, people are not going to be wanting to watch this. It really has to be done. Like, I think Disney Plus did Hawkeye pretty good. Like, ending it the week before Christmas, that actually played out very well. So I would say the latest it could start would be mid-October to get all 8 episodes in. They could start Labor Day weekend again, but it's just they did the same thing, a couple of years ago when they started it. The ball was already rolling. We had already gotten a whole bunch of stuff already. And right now we're at the end of April and we've got nothing. Absolutely nothing. So this is the thing that I don't know about, and no one seems to have, from what I've seen, no one has a good explanation for what, they're committed to it. It's not like they're not going to run it, but, what are you holding back this long for? So anyway, I guess that brings us up to speed right now. We're all in a waiting pattern. We're all just trying to see what's going on with this show. Who knows? By next week, something could drop and they could start rolling again, or we could still be waiting a couple months from now. So anyway, that's kind of just my update for now. Like I said, I just needed something to do for April. So I figured, let's do this now. So next month, still not sure what I'm going to do. I might do a Conan recap because the story is getting close to ending there for Titan Comics, which has been doing really good. So if you haven't picked that up yet, go out and get that. If you enjoy the older ones, you'll really like the new ones that Titan's putting out. Just kind of forget what Marvel did past couple years ago. Just pretend that didn't happen. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you all next month.